A proposal to pull school resource officers back out of Denver schools just months after they were restored.
We are proposing a different path forward.
Looking into the big money and out-of-state spending in the Denver mayor's race. Appears there is a deal tonight to avoid American default over the objection of Colorado Republicans. And how does voting make you feel?
It feels good to vote. It feels like I'm somebody.
Feels good. Inside and out. That's tonight on Next. There is no guarantee there will be school resource officers in Denver schools next year. They were brought back temporarily after the shootings at East High. And now some school board members are proposing limits on where and how those SROs could work with students. The school board member who led the 2020 effort to get SROs out of schools, Sayante Anderson, joined two other board members today to roll out their proposal that would not have SROs assigned to school each day. They would be assigned to regions, and they would only go into specific schools if they're specifically called for an issue. The plan would also have campus safety officers do the pat-downs and weapon searches instead of teachers and administrators who do them currently. The board members today made a thinly veiled reference to the East High parents who have gathered weekly to advocate for school resource officers and other safety measures.
We have heard from community. We receive emails from community that are extensive. They may not be the loudest voices you're hearing. They may not be organizing press conferences on a weekly basis, but they are telling us loudly and clearly that having SROs in the building is in fact an oppressive system.
Quite frankly, I still hold to the belief that school resource officers should not be present in our schools, period. And if we could pass EL 1010 as is, I would be supporting that.
Does not appear that Director Anderson has the votes on the school board to ban school resource officers once again. Another school board member, Scott Balderman, has his own proposal to limit SRO presence on campus and require those officers to go through additional training. District spokesperson tells us the board will consider both plans and try to adopt a policy by the end of next month. Both of the proposals say that the Denver School Board is not willing to pay for school resource officers. They want the funding to come from external sources like grants or city or state funding. In our last Denver mayoral debate, both Mike Johnston and Kelly Brough said that they would support the city paying for DPS school resource officers. So less than a week out before Election Day in Denver, and Kelly Brough is out with a negative, misleading ad. Now, it accurately describes the big out-of-state money that's helping Mike Johnston. It does not mention the wealthy interests in out-of-state cash that's funding Brough's campaign, too. Here's politics guy Marshall Zellinger to put it to the truth test.
A Denver voter can give $500 directly to a candidate for mayor.
The dollar amount is true, but hang on. You don't have to be a Denver voter. Anyone can give up to $500 to either Kelly Brough or Mike Johnston's campaign. Let's look at them side by side. Through April, Brough had received $895,000 directly to her campaign from 4,300 contributions. Johnston received $932,000 from almost 5,500 contributions. 69% of Brough's money came from people in Denver. 42% of Johnston's money is from people in Denver. And they both received money from people outside of Colorado. Brough in green, Johnston in yellow, and where they overlap, it's both colors. The next claim in the ad has a correct dollar amount, but it has nothing to do with the $500 limit to campaigns.
But two out-of-state billionaires gave $1.8 million to elect Mike Johnston.
It's true that former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg and LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman have contributed $1.8 million, but not directly to Johnston's campaign. That would violate the $500 limit. Their money is being sent to Advancing Denver, a political action committee that can receive unlimited amounts of money, and a committee that Johnston is not allowed to have anything to do with. Advancing Denver has received more than $4 million. That money comes from Bloomberg, Hoffman, former DaVita CEO Kent Thiry, and 67 other people. The majority of the contributions are from people in Colorado, but the majority of the money is coming from outside of the state. Brough's ad fails to mention the political action committee that supports her run for mayor. It's called A Better Denver. They're the ones that tried to twist our reporting in that attack ad against Johnston. A Better Denver has $1.4 million in contributions, including almost $500,000 from the National Association of Realtors and $50,000 from developer Cal Follenweider, who has contributed to Republicans running for U.S. Senate, and also $50,000 from former Republican Senate candidate and beer magnate Pete Coors. I can only make so many graphics in a day, so thanks to Colorado Newsline for this easy-to-read graphic showing the most money given to those political action committees. In green, the people and organizations contributing to Advancing Denver, which wants Johnston as mayor. And in that orange-reddish color, the people and organizations contributing to A Better Denver, which wants Brough as mayor. Kyle?
You know, one thing that I speculated aloud about here a couple weeks back when they got into the runoff is whether either of their sources of outside funding were going to dry up down the home stretch. I speculated that Mike Johnston's would not, because these are the outside of Colorado hopey-changey types that pour money into kind of flashy progressive campaigns across the country. But I wondered if Kelly Bruff's would dry up because she's getting a lot of like real estate and developer money. And my thought was like, is Mike Johnston really a threat to any developer or real estate person? Are they going to spend to get Bruff in there for some advantage?
He has a little of that money too, but $2.2 million is what Johnston had in the outside group that wanted Johnston. They had $2.2 million at the time of the April election. That's now $4.1 million, that almost doubled. Bruff was at $984,000. Now at $1.4 million, it went up, what, $500,000.
So slowed a bit in comparison to pace of Johnson's. I don't know. That was just kind of my armchair analysis a couple months ago. It's interesting to see the actual numbers. Marshall, thank you. A bunch of Coloradans showed up today to talk about their Excel bills, filled with the knowledge that has come from months of conversations here and elsewhere about why we are all paying more as Excel shareholders make more profits. State regulators just wrapped up a 2-hour virtual public hearing about Excel's request to hike electric rates again, $300+ million. At the start of the virtual meeting, the Public Utilities Chair said that there were about 70 people signed up to talk. Typically, these are pretty sleepy sessions. Then later he said, no, we had 95 people that want to talk. A number of them were actually no-shows when they were called on. The first Coloradan to speak made it clear that it's journalists who have put more attention on these rate hike requests that used to be quite routine.
As you know, you're getting tremendous media attention to this, which it actually makes your jobs easier. You know, the Denver Post, the Colorado Sun, CPR, the Westward, Channel 9, when the TV stations are paying attention, you know something's not going right.
Yeah, when a TV station of all places is paying attention, whoo, then you know it's rough. XL wants to raise rates more than $7 a month for the average customer, a total of $312 million. Earlier this month, we told you that the consumer advocate, basically the public defender for XL customers, told regulators that they don't believe that rates should go up at all. They should go down, $24 million. PUC will decide later this summer. Some Colorado Republicans in Congress are part of a far-right faction that's trying to block a debt ceiling deal tonight. But Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he does have the votes to pass it and avoid a default on America's bills next month. 29 Republicans tried to block the bill from getting to a floor vote earlier today. That included Lauren Boebert, Ken Buck from Colorado. Both have been vocal about their opposition to this bill, which would raise the debt ceiling but scale back some of the budget cuts demanded by Republicans. An unusual twist here shows you the current state of the Colorado Republican Party. The new state party chair, Dave Williams, is fundraising for the party off of a pressure campaign that's aimed not at a Democrat, but at Republican Congressman Doug Lamborn, trying to squeeze Lamborn to oppose this debt ceiling deal, like Boebert and Buck. We should mention Williams lost a primary to Lamborn last year before he became the Republican Party chair and promised to take a more hardline approach. Let's talk about some things that we know about hunger in Colorado. We know it's everywhere, right? From the cities to the suburbs to the rural areas. We know that 1 in 12 children in Colorado struggles with hunger. And we know that summer is the toughest time to keep kids fed. But we also know about nonprofits, like this week's Word of Thanks recipient, Jeffco Eats. You talk to the folks in Jeffco Eats, and they will tell you that the summer months are clearly the most challenging time of the year. Kids are out of school, so they may be missing the meals that they would get there. And the nonprofit isn't able to send food home with them from school buildings. So this summer, Jeffco Eats will be where the kids are, at libraries, churches, and out in their neighborhoods, their housing projects. They want to make it quick, easy, stigma-free for a kid to grab a bag of food and take it home. Food for the entire family. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. As always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us started. Jeffco Eats estimates that more than 50,000 people in that county struggle with hunger. They focus on the kids, and they're determined not to have them miss meals this summer. Last night, neighbors were here complaining about a long abandoned bridge. Well, today, would you look at that? And no more excuses for not voting.
First time ever voting. 50 years old, yeah.
Inmates explain why it's important for them to participate in the process, even if no candidate knocked on their door. Next. Denver didn't see the storms that could have shaped up for us this afternoon. Honestly, not even really that much rain. There's always, so tomorrow, I guess tonight, Danielle, this is terrible to say, like, I'm already having the storm season fatigue where it's like, chance of decent hail today in Denver. Am I going to try to cover anything in the garden? Nah, because then you're just going to have to do it the next day, the next day, and the next day. I don't know. I'm trying to raise the bar a little bit, I guess.
So you didn't do it today then?
I didn't do it today.
I lucked
out. Because you warned, and yeah.
You know, our friends up in northern Colorado, not the case. Their gardens are toast, unfortunately, because we saw so much hail coming through around Bar Lake. They had about ping pong ball size hail come through. North Glen, as well as Frederick, Firestone, quarter size. Even here in parts of Denver, especially the northwest side of town, we saw about pea size hail. Not enough to do any damage, but some folks definitely had to deal with it. But this is going to be the trend over the course of the next couple of days as we're watching these chances for afternoon thunderstorms each and every afternoon. Wind reports coming our way, 60+ mile-per-hour winds in and around northern Colorado, Milliken, Windsor, Eaton, Loveland, also strong winds. Look at this. They're finally starting to weaken just a bit for us, but still some action in parts of northern Colorado tonight. Our strong storm system that impacted Fort Collins through Greeley, that's now into parts of Wyoming. Severe thunderstorm warning out there. Just starting to see this next little cell around Morgan County get going. Otherwise, late tonight, 10 o'clock, we're not done yet. Good news is this evening it looks like just some solid rain around here. No hail, but the showers definitely continuing overnight. Everything kind of winding down by midnight here in the city. 7 a.m. partly cloudy skies. We'll be looking at rain around Steamboat and also into far southeastern Colorado. Here we go again. Chance for another round of afternoon thunderstorms tomorrow. Good news about tomorrow, it doesn't look like anything will be severe, so no hail threat. Yes, finally, we can take it easy. Temperatures, however, will be a bit cooler than what we saw today in the low to mid 70s here around the urban corridor, 50s and low 60s up in the mountains. Looking ahead toward the weekend, looks pretty soggy. Chance of storms out there, highs in the 60s, but we will warm up next week.
Thank you, Danielle. So less than 24 hours after we were talking about that bridge with no known owner in Denver, eyesore, safety issue, today, well, you know, inspectors from the city were out to take a look at it. The Delaney Street Bridge just across from Ball Arena has been shut down for 2 years. The city says it's trying to track down the owner to address safety concerns. People living nearby told us yesterday they were hoping that maybe increased tourism with the NBA Finals would motivate the city to take care of the issue. On a little sign saying, "Fix me" on the bridge. Well, today those neighbors were shocked to see, hey, there were workers out there. They sent some photos to our Steve Stager. He caught up with the crews just as they were wrapping up their work. They told him that they're from the city and they were just out there doing a routine inspection. Nothing special. The city says it's working on a cost estimate for the repairs, but not actually committing to fixing anything yet.
They don't have a say in where they spend their days, but they do have a say in the city's future.
I love Denver, always have. So I want to see the best for us.
Election day in jail. Next.
People in jail are not always accustomed to a lot of choices, especially ones that come with no preconditions. Today, it was a chance to choose who they want to see as the next mayor of Denver. Our Mark Salinger was there.
Okay. Am I doing today?
Charge me with that.
Inside these walls, voices can be hard to hear.
While I'm incarcerated, you don't really feel like anybody. You know, you feel less than somebody.
In a world where steel doors close slowly and jumpsuits are always followed by badges, there are few choices in jail.
Nervous. Nervous as hell. But I think I'll be all right, though.
At this table, Raymond Martinez makes the choice to have his voice heard.
You know, because I grew up most of my life in the penitentiary, you know what I mean? So I've been doing time since 92, off and on. So this is like a big step, you know, for me.
At 50 years old, it's his first time voting ever.
I feel that this is a big step for me, and to let my kids know that, hey, it's okay to vote.
It feels good to vote. It feels like I'm somebody.
For Dwan.
Like I still have a voice, like I still have a word in saying what's going on.
And Joseph.
If you're in jail and you're eligible, do it.
And Gregory. Voting is a chance to feel a part of their community again.
Wanted my vote to make a difference. Wanted my vote to be cast just so everybody knows that no matter what, your vote counts.
The Denver jail is one of the few in the nation that allows in-person voting for inmates that do not have an active felony. Sheriff Elias Diggins says it makes an impact beyond their time serving.
And so if they feel like they were able to participate in the electoral process while they're in custody, I think it helps them to understand that being a community member is important and coming back to the community better than how you came here is important to us as well.
Inmates do their research, listen to debates, and make their decisions, just like everyone outside the jail.
Because I've already went through the thought process of who I'm going to vote for, so I'm praying that my vote makes just a little bit of difference.
Ballots amplify voices, regardless of where they're cast.
It feels great. It made me feel like a better man knowing that I can open up and be able to tell the world what I feel too.
All right, y'all have a good day.
Jail started allowing in-person voting for inmates back in 2020, so this is the first time that inmates are casting ballots to choose the next mayor. Anyone with a misdemeanor is allowed to vote, though anyone with an active felony cannot. Of all the jails in the country, the sheriff here in Denver says that he only knows of 3 that allow in-person voting.
That's interesting. I imagine research probably looks a little bit different.
Yeah, you know, there are a lot of jails that allow voting for people to cast their ballots that send in through the mail or, you know, they come pick it up. But for voting people, for election workers to actually come to the jail, he says that there's only a handful.
And their research, I imagine they collect information just kind of, you know, however they can, whether it's, you know, TV or things that they find online, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the inmates that we were speaking with, they said, you know, I asked them, how are you figuring out who you want to vote for? They were telling me that they often write letters back to their parents saying, hey, can you research this certain topic for me, and say, hey, you know, I want to know who to vote for. Letters and phone calls go a long way.
Yeah, I think to answer our question, it seems to feel the same on the inside as it does on the outside. Makes you feel good. Makes you feel powerful. Good. Yeah, makes you feel part of the process.
Exactly.
Thank you. It's your feedback and our work to feed kids who are out of school for the summer. Next. For the people who worry about keeping kids fed in our community, and there are a bunch of those great folks out there, summer is the most challenging time of the year because kids aren't getting meals at school, parents don't have school pickup and drop off as an easy chance to bring donated food home. So in come a bunch of nonprofits, including the one featured in this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign. Jeffco Eats is a nonprofit in Jefferson County that stocks food bags in libraries and churches, places where families tend to gather in the summertime. And they also bring a mobile pantry to neighborhoods in need, whatever it takes to get food to young people and their families. Just take a bag, you're good for a couple of days. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get that link to join me and a bunch of others in donating to Jeffco Eats. I missed your feedback while I was on vacation. Jason writes in to say, Kyle Clark pushes hate and division. Well, thank you for that feedback, Jason. I hope that you'll donate to the microgiving campaign to feed the kids. Brian says, welcome back. Hope you had a nice vacation. Do you know if there's any public polling in the race for mayor in the runoff? Any of it done recently? 9 News did some polling in the original 16-17 candidate race. We have not polled it since. I have not seen any other publicly released poll in the last couple of weeks. We take it from both campaigns. They believe the race will be close. See you next time.